Hey everybody, and welcome to Paul's Hardware. Today I'm going to be doing a review of this Rosewill Line M Micro ATX computer case. I'm going to start off with an unboxing and sort of a first look at this case because as mentioned I have not dealt with this one at all. This is going to be my first look at it. And then as you can see I've got some parts over there, and those are the parts I'm going to be using to do a build in this case. So then I'll follow up either later today or tomorrow whenever I actually get through with all these videos I'm working on today. And I will give you guys my personal thoughts in more of a review style and how I feel about working with this case. Now, one thing about cases, the handy handles often get tucked up inside and make it difficult to take the box off. The more you know. Okay. So here's this case itself, and this being a budget case, of course, packaging, we got some basic styrofoam end pieces, plastic covering of course. There we go. Packaging and the plastic removed. We can get a closer look at the case. Alright, so up here on top, Rosewill Line M User's Manual. We've got sort of a exploded view of the case. Some info about the connectors, all the included screws and whatnot. And then here's the case. So at first look, I would say this is a fairly standard Micro ATX case. Two 5 1/4 inch bays up in front, also 3.5 inch bay, two USB 2, two USB 3 with an internal plug, mic and headphone, as well as a reset button and a power button, hard drive and power activity lights. Nice mesh up here at the front with a fan located right behind it. It's a blue LED fan. I'm actually going to be swapping that one out for the build because blue LED is kind of a matter of preference, and since I'm building this for kind of a small office, that's not really the preference. Hey look, black thumb screws. It's a nice feature for a budget case. Actual thumb screws that are also painted black. I'm just popping those off real quick. I'm also getting ahead of myself. Power supply mount there at the back. Oh, Nori's here. We also have this is like a D-sub pop out and some grommet pop outs, but they're currently, the metal's still on those. There's a 20-pin USB connector. Hi Nori. We also have, of course, knockout here for your input-output shield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expansion bays down there at the bottom, and 120mm exhaust. Let me get these off as well so I can show you guys the inside, like so. Alright, so side panel. There we go. Side panel's fairly thin, I'd say, as far as the metal goes, but again, budget case, so I can't be expecting too much. The main thing is totally painted black. Looks like a pretty clean paint job as well, which is nice. And then they've sort of rolled it over in several places, so that definitely gives it some more sturdiness to it. And let me just do the reinstallation of the side panel. So not too bad. All the little side notches caught where they should and everything. So there you have it. Side panel. You also have mounting points on the side panel for 120. I'm guessing this is also 92 and 80mm fan mounts. So you can add some additional ventilation to the case if you want some more of that pointing directly in. Here's a look at the interior. 120 in the back, 120 in the front. One in the front's that clear one with the LED. Here is some accessories. So it looks like they've given you... I see. So these are PCI bracket covers. So this is one of those versions where in order to install your covers in the PCI bays, here at the back, these actually pop off entirely. So only remove the ones you want to use, because once you pop them off you can't put them back on. But if you do want to replace them, you've got a couple PCI brackets right there, so you can pop those into place. Also black. We've got about 5 black twist or zip ties for cable management. Ooh, I like this. Look, a speaker. I find so many cases these days, and many of them don't come with speakers, and motherboards don't always have a speaker mounted, but I like keeping one of these around, because if your motherboard is, especially if it's a lower end motherboard, and it doesn't have like LEDs or anything like that, you plug in the speaker, you can actually hear the postcodes, and it can help with troubleshooting. Alright, what else do we have? These are kind of your standard assortment of screws for mounting to the motherboard, also mounting in expansion cards. Here's another cool feature. Look at that. So this is actually plastic, but it's for tightening motherboard standoffs. So you pop it on a motherboard standoff and you can tighten or untighten it, because when you're installing your motherboard standoffs, you should always tighten them as far down as you possibly can, provided of course you don't strip them. Alright, so there's your screws and whatnot. Let's see, front panel, okay. The front intake fan has 2 plugs. Looks like you got both the 3-pin, yeah, so a little splitter here. So Molex if you want to plug it in directly, or you can do the 3-pin to your motherboard if you want some better control over the fan and you don't want it just running at full speed all the time. Other front panel connectors, 20-pin USB 3.0 connector, HD audio, AC97 audio. Also, these are fairly long, so even if your connection points are down here and then the lower left, like way down there, you should still have enough cable length to reach around to them without too much trouble. Also USB 2, of course, for those USB 2.0 front panels. That mostly does it for the interior. Oh, and front panel connectors here as well. Those are kind of tucked back away and hidden. Front panel connectors with the gorgeous multicolored cable that those always seem to have, except on some cases. Let me flip around to the back. This case is very light, I will give it that. Easy to maneuver. Alright. Now, so there is like a motherboard tray. There's no space back here though, so don't plan on using any of this for cable management because there's really zero space at all. But they do have a knockout here at the back for CPU aftermarket CPU heatsink fans, so you can get at the mounting tools for that. There's a bit of space right here, so you can wrap cables along that direction if you want to. Let's see. So there's kind of a see-through look of it. Bottom of the case has some rubber feet. Yeah, they're rubberized, so that'll keep your whatever surface you have it on clean. Keep vibrations down a little bit. Front panel should pop off. There we go. Front panel pops off without too much trouble. So that's also handy because it does have this mesh up here at the front, so if that gets crowded with dust, you can simply pop that off and use some canned air to blow that out. I'm going to, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to put it back on. There we go. Alright, front panel back on. Some toolless locking mechanisms for 3.5 inch and 5 1/4 inch bays. I was reading the review for this, and they said that these can be a touch on the flimsy side, but if you don't like them, just remove them and mount them with the screws, because those screw mounting points are still accessible there. I don't know if you guys can see very well on the side here, but you got another 3.5 inch bay down there. That is not the front facing one. The upmost 3.5 inch bay is your front facing one, so you can use that with a card reader. 3 3.5 inch bays, 2 5 1/4 inch bays, and then also there's mounting options at the bottom down here, which I'm gonna admit I'm not 100% sure of. Alright, so this looks like this looks like a 3.5 inch. Yes, okay. So you can mount another drive there via the 4 drive mounts on the bottom, so you can put a 3.5 inch drive down there on the bottom. And how about SSDs? I think this is an SSD mount as well. Surely I have an SSD sitting around here somewhere. Yes, of course I do. Alright, so SSD mount as well, right there. I don't know if you could do both. Could you do both? I'm going to try it. I'll try it and let you guys know, because it looks like you could probably drop an SSD, or at least a narrow one like that, right there, and then put a hard drive on top of it. Well, maybe not. Maybe with some spacers. I don't know. I'll play around with that and let you guys know what happens. But at least a couple more drive mounts down there at the bottom, because as you guys can see, there's not a whole lot of drive mounting positions in here. But again, small case, you're not going to be cramming it full of drives. I doubt you're doing a RAID array or anything too crazy like that in here. But there's sort of a first look at it. I'm going to go ahead and do my build and my assembly in here, and then I'll come back to you guys with some final thoughts. So continuing the review here, guys, I now have the system all set up in there, and this is kind of a look at the system setup, full build in it. This is with my permanent cable management I'm not intending ever to switch any of this stuff around because it took me a while to get everything wired in there. But that really, as far as negative aspects of this case, that's really what it comes down to, cable management. There's not a whole lot of space, and I know that's just sort of kind of goes hand in hand with being a smaller form factor micro ATX system, and this is a fairly small micro ATX form factor system. But you don't have a whole lot of room, so you definitely want to plan ahead, and you definitely don't want to have to replace your power supply like I did, because it was kind of a pain in the butt. But apart from that, as you can see, everything fits. Plenty of airflow, nice space here from the front fan to the CPU cooler to the rear fan. I was able to fit optical drive up top, SSD in the middle, 2 terabyte drive down there at the bottom. Build came together quite nicely. If I have any complaints, again, it's going to be about the cable management and also the corner up here, actually between the 5 1/4 inch tray and the motherboard. There's not a whole lot of space to work with there. In fact, I had to remove this standoff for the motherboard in order to feed cables up behind there, and that's actually a really handy place to be able to feed those cables. It gives you a little bit more cable management, but you do, well, I almost dropped it, you do have to remove the motherboard in order to get those in or out of there, which I actually had to do, which led to a bit of a rebuild of this build. But that wasn't the fault of the case, that was the fault of the power supply. Let me flip around here to the back. You guys can take a look right there. And as you can see, no space here behind the motherboard tray, but you do have some space up here. So this is where you're going to pretty much be trying to route all your cables through, bunch them all up, and should at least give you some space to work with. And so, in conclusion, I've decided to get a haircut and change my shirt. Actually, that's because I ended up having to sort of redo my build in this. If you guys are curious why, you can check out my other video, which is specifically on the build in this case. But in this video, I'm actually just reviewing the Rosewill Line M, so I will limit my comments to that. I will say I really enjoy this case. For a budget case, it did a really good job. I like the painted interior. I like the layout inside. It gives you a decent amount of room to add some drives. It's got a nice clear open space behind the fan and intake in the front, so it's going to give you a real good airflow and actually directional airflow from the front of the case to the back. Comes included with 2 pretty decent 120mm fans, and this is an inexpensive case. It's a budget case. If this were a more expensive case, I would definitely be much harder on it because you know, there are always some stuff you get in those higher end cases that you miss in cases like this. But that said, I would, if I was rating this on a scale from 1 to 10, which I guess maybe I'll start doing, I think I would give it an 8, but I would definitely recommend it as a budget case for budget builders looking for a micro ATX form factor. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. Once again, this has been my review on the Rosewill Line M Micro ATX computer case. I'm Paul, and you've been watching Paul's Hardware. If you guys would like to see more tech videos, you can check out my Paul's Hardware YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.